Jake Morrison had been working on Arcturus 7 for 3 years. The frozen moon was not a beautiful place. It was cold, dark, and dangerous. But the mining company paid well, and Jake needed the money. He was the foreman, which meant he was in charge of 47 workers who dug rare metals from the ice. The ice storm came without warning. Jake had just finished checking the drilling machines when the wind started to scream. The temperature dropped fast. His suit's computer showed -70 degrees and falling. He needed to get inside the base right now. Then he heard it. A sound that cut through the howling wind. It was a cry, high and desperate. The kind of sound that made something twist in his chest. Jake stopped at the airlock door. His hand was on the handle. Every part of his brain told him to go inside where it was warm and safe. But that sound, it was not like anything he had heard on this dead moon before. He turned back into the storm. The wind hit him like a hammer. Ice crystals scraped against his helmet. He could barely see 3 feet ahead. Jake turned on his suit's thermal scanner. The device showed heat signatures through the white chaos of the storm. 2 small shapes appeared on his screen. They were about 50 meters away, huddled behind a chunk of ice. They were alive, but getting colder by the second. Jake pushed forward. Each step was a fight against the wind. His suit's heating system was working as hard as it could. Warning lights blinked on his display. He ignored them and kept moving. When he reached the ice outcropping, Jake looked down and froze. 2 creatures looked back at him with large golden eyes. They looked like wolf pups, but they were not from Earth. Their fur was blue and silver, shimmering even in the dim stormlight. They were small, about the size of cats, and they were shaking. Ice covered their fur. Their breathing was shallow and quick. They were dying. Jake did not think. He scooped both creatures into his arms and ran. The storm fought him with every step. Wind pushed him sideways. Ice made the ground slippery, but he held the small bodies close to his chest and ran harder. The airlock door had never looked so good. Jake slammed his hand on the controls and stumbled inside as the door hissed shut behind him. The sudden silence after the screaming wind was strange. Katie Sullivan looked up from her computer tablet. Her eyes went wide when she saw what Jake was carrying. "What in the world are those?" she asked. "No time. Get me warm water and thermal blankets. Medical bay now." Katie had worked with Jake for 2 years. She knew when to ask questions and when to just move. She ran. Jake laid the 2 pups on the floor carefully. Up close, he could see they were very young. Their paws were too big for their small bodies. Their ears flopped at the tips. One had a white patch of fur on its chest. The other was pure blue-silver. Katie came back with supplies. Together, they worked to save the alien pups. Jake carefully broke the ice off their fur. Katie warmed water to just the right temperature. They wrapped the shivering bodies in thermal blankets and placed them near a heating unit. The pups did not move much at first. Their breathing was so faint Jake had to lean close to hear it. He mixed protein powder with warm water and used a dropper to get liquid into their mouths. Drop by drop, patient and slow. Hours passed. The storm outside continued to rage. Inside, Jake and Katie took turns watching the pups. Slowly, very slowly, the creatures began to respond. Their breathing got stronger. Their shivering stopped. Their eyes, which had been dull and unfocused, began to clear. By midnight, both pups were sleeping peacefully. Their sides rose and fell in steady rhythm. The one with the white chest patch made small sounds in its sleep. The other one had curled around its companion. Katie brought coffee and sat down next to Jake. They both stared at the sleeping aliens. "What are they?" Katie asked quietly. Jake shook his head. "I do not know. The survey teams never found any life on this moon. Nothing, not even bacteria. Maybe they are from a crashed ship. Maybe." Jake took a sip of coffee. It was hot and bitter and perfect. "We need to report this to who?" "The company, the government, both, probably." Jake rubbed his eyes. He was exhausted. The adrenaline from the rescue was wearing off. "But not tonight. Tonight we make sure they stay alive." Katie nodded. She reached out slowly and gently touched the white-patched pup's fur. It was soft and warm now. "They are kind of beautiful." "Yeah," Jake agreed. "They are." He thought about the moment he had heard that cry through the storm. He could have ignored it. He could have gone inside and been safe. No one would have blamed him. The storm was deadly. Going out in it was crazy, but he had not been able to walk away. Something about that sound had reached inside him and pulled. Maybe it was because the cry sounded so helpless. Maybe it was because Jake had lost his own younger brother years ago and still carried that guilt. Maybe it was just because he was the kind of person who could not ignore someone in trouble. Whatever the reason, he had made a choice, and now these 2 small lives were safe because of it. Jake did not know it yet, but that choice would change everything, not just for him, but for all of humanity. Sometimes the biggest moments in history start with the smallest decisions. A sound heard through a storm. A door opened instead of closed. A life saved instead of left behind. The pups slept on, unaware of the human watching over them. Outside, the ice storm slowly began to die down, and in the darkness of space above the frozen moon, sensors were picking up the faint signal from the pups' emergency beacons. Help was coming, but it would not arrive quietly. Jake finished his coffee and settled in to watch over his unexpected patients. Katie brought him a blanket, and he wrapped it around his shoulders. His whole body ached from fighting through the storm. His hands were sore from breaking ice off the pup's fur, but he felt good. Tired, but good. The white-patched pup made another small sound and shifted in its sleep. Its paw stretched out and touched Jake's boot. Even asleep, it seemed to know he was there, that he was safe. Jake smiled. He had come to this frozen moon to mine for metals and earn money. He had not expected to become a rescuer of alien wolf pups. Life was strange sometimes. The heating unit hummed softly. The base was quiet except for the normal sounds of the life support systems. The storm outside was just a distant whistle now. Jake's eyes grew heavy. He should sleep. Tomorrow would bring questions and problems and decisions. But for now, in this quiet moment, there was just him and Katie and two small creatures who had survived because someone had chosen to help. That felt like enough. That felt like everything. Jake woke up to alarms. Not the sharp warning sounds that meant equipment was breaking or air was leaking. This was different. This was the deep tone that meant something had entered their space. Something big. He was running before his eyes were fully open. His boots pounded on the metal floor as he sprinted to the command center. Katie was already there, her face white as snow. How many? Jake asked, even though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. 2,147 ships, Katie said. Her voice shook. They just appeared. No warning, no sound. They are just there. Jake looked at the main screen and his heart stopped. The space above Arcturus 7 was full of ships. Hundreds and hundreds of them, floating in perfect rows like soldiers at attention. Each ship was huge, bigger than any human destroyer. They were made of dark metal that seemed to eat the light from the stars. Have they said anything? Jake asked. Not yet. They are just sitting there, waiting. Jake's mind raced. 2,000 ships did not appear for no reason, and they had appeared the day after he rescued two strange alien pups. That could not be a coincidence. Before he could say anything else, the communication system came alive. Sound and light burst from every speaker and screen in the base. Katie quickly put it on the main display. A face appeared. It was almost human but not quite. The skin was covered in fine blue-silver fur. The eyes were golden and bright. The creature wore what looked like a military uniform with complex patterns woven into the fabric. Humans of the Arcturus 7 mining facility, the alien said. The base computer translated the words into English instantly. I am Commander Valen of the Lycarian fleet. We have tracked a distress signal to your location. You have two members of our royal bloodline. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Royal bloodline. The pups he had saved were not just aliens. They were alien royalty. He stepped in front of the camera. Commander Valen, this is Jake Morrison. I am the foreman here. Last night I found two young Lycarians in an ice storm. They were dying. I brought them inside and took care of them. They are safe. Commander Valen stared at Jake through the screen. The alien's face was hard to read, but Jake thought he saw surprise there. You saved them, Valen said. It was not a question. Yes. I could not leave them in the storm to die. Valen was quiet for a long moment. Then something changed in his expression. The pups you rescued are the children of Empress Sar. She rules the Lycarian Dominion. The pups were being moved to a safe place when raiders attacked their ship. The escape pod crashed on your moon during the storm. We have been searching for 3 days. Jake's legs felt weak. He had saved the children of an alien empress. The weight of that knowledge pressed down on him like the ice storm had pressed against his suit. I will bring them to you right away, Jake said. No, Valen said firmly. You will stay where you are. The empress is coming. She wants to meet the human who saved her children. The screen went dark. Jake and Katie stood in silence for a moment. We are in so much trouble, Katie whispered. Jake could not argue with that. He went to check on the pups. They were awake now and playing. They tumbled over each other like earth puppies, making happy chirping sounds. When they saw Jake, both of them ran to him. The one with the white patch jumped up and put its small paws on his leg. Those golden eyes looked up at him with complete trust. Jake knelt down and the pups climbed into his lap, licking his hands and making pleased sounds. They had no idea that a fleet of 2,000 ships was waiting above them. They just knew that Jake had saved them and kept them warm and safe. "Sorry, little ones," Jake said softly. "I think your family is here." 3 hours later, a shuttle came down from the fleet. It moved through the air like water, smooth and silent. It landed on the ice without making a sound or kicking up any frost. A ramp extended from its side. Jake had gathered all 47 of his crew in the main common area. Everyone was nervous. Everyone was watching. No one knew what would happen next. The Empress walked in first. She was tall, nearly 7 feet. Her fur shimmered like starlight. She wore robes that looked like liquid metal, flowing and changing color as she moved. Behind her came guards in armor, all of them armed and alert. Her golden eyes swept across the room and found Jake immediately. She walked toward him with long, purposeful steps. Every person in the room seemed to shrink back a little. Her presence filled the space like a physical force. "You are Jake Morrison," she said. Her voice was softer than Valen's, but it carried power in every word. "Yes, Your Majesty," Jake said. He had looked up how to address royalty in the base computer. He hoped he was doing it right. "Where are my children?" Jake nodded to Katie. She carefully brought forward the 2 pups. They had been cleaned and fed. Their fur gleamed with health. The moment they saw the Empress, they started making excited sounds and wiggling in Katie's arms. Everything about the Empress changed in that instant. The hard royal mask fell away. What was left was pure mother. She took her children from Katie with gentle hands and held them against her chest. They nuzzled into her fur, crying and chirping. "My babies," the Empress whispered in her own language. The translator spoke the words a second later. "My precious little ones." Jake looked away. This moment felt private, like something he should not be watching. Around him, his crew did the same. Even the Lycarian guards seemed to soften, their weapons lowering slightly. Finally, the Empress looked up. There were tears in her golden eyes. "You saved them," she said to Jake. "In a storm that could have killed you, you saved creatures you did not know from a species you had never seen. You asked for nothing." She set her children down carefully. They immediately started exploring the room, sniffing at everything with curious noses. The Empress walked to Jake. She was so much taller that he had to look up to meet her eyes. "The Lycarian Dominion owes you a debt that cannot be repaid," she said. "But we will try. Name your price, Jake Morrison. Wealth, technology, a planet of your own. Whatever you want, if I can give it, it is yours." Jake was shocked. The offer was beyond anything he could imagine. Wealth that could make him richer than kings. Technology that could change human civilization, even a whole planet. All his. Just for asking. He looked at the 2 pups. They were playing with one of his crew members now, jumping and rolling and being happy. They were alive because he had made a choice in a storm. "I do not want payment," Jake said. "I saved them because it was right, not because I wanted a reward." The Empress studied him for a long time. Jake felt like she was looking into his soul, measuring him in ways he could not understand. "You are unusual," she said at last, "but I cannot leave this debt unpaid. It goes against everything my people believe." She paused, thinking, "You have shown honor and compassion, so I offer this. The Lycarian Dominion will extend friendship to humanity. We will share knowledge, open trade, and offer protection." The room erupted in whispers. Jake's crew understood what this meant. The Lycarian Dominion was clearly powerful. An alliance with them could change everything for humanity. "But," the Empress continued, raising her hand for silence, "this alliance will be tied to you, Jake Morrison. You will be our connection to your species. You will be granted the title of Honor Friend of the Dominion. This rank puts you among our most trusted advisors." Jake wanted to say he was just a mining foreman. He was not a diplomat. He did not know how to run alliances between species. But looking at the Empress and her children who were safe because of him, he understood. This was not about politics. This was about the choice he had made and the responsibility that came with it. "I accept," Jake said, "if the agreement protects both our peoples fairly." The Empress smiled. Her teeth were sharp, but somehow the smile did not seem dangerous. "You have wisdom and courage. We will make an alliance that helps us both." She held out her hand. Jake took it. Her grip was warm and firm and strong. "One more thing," the Empress said. "My children have bonded with you. I see it in how they watch you. With your permission, I would like them to spend time with you as they grow." Jake looked down. Both pups had stopped playing and were sitting at his feet, looking up at him with those bright golden eyes. The one with the white patch put a paw on his boot. "I would be honored," Jake said, and he meant every word. 6 months changed everything. The small mining colony on Arcturus 7 became something much bigger. People from Earth arrived every week. Scientists who wanted to study the diplomats who wanted to make deals, engineers who wanted to learn new technology. The simple buildings that had housed 47 miners grew into a proper facility with meeting rooms, laboratories, and living quarters for both humans and Lycarians. Jake found himself doing a job he had never trained for. He sat in meetings with important people from Earth and important Lycarians from across the Dominion. He helped write trade agreements. He explained human culture to curious aliens and Lycarian culture to confused humans. It was exhausting. It was exciting. It was never boring, but through all of it, the two pups were there. The Empress had named them Kira and Frost. They spent half their time with Jake and his crew, learning about humans and Earth and how to be children. They were smart, even for By 3 months old, they could understand basic English and could communicate using a mix of their own language and human gestures. Kira, the smaller one with the white chest patch, stayed closest to Jake. She followed him everywhere. When he worked, she sat beside his desk. When he walked the halls, she trotted at his heels. When he slept, she curled up on a cushion next to his bed. Jake found himself growing attached to her in ways that surprised him. Frost, slightly bigger and more serious, had bonded with Katie. He watched everything she did with careful attention and tried to copy her actions. Katie treated him like a beloved nephew, teaching him games and telling him stories. One afternoon, Commander Valen found Jake in the supply room. Kira was trying to help by batting at the holographic inventory display with her paw, which was not actually helping at all. "They are not pets," Valen said. His tone was gentle but firm. "They are royalty. When they grow up, they will have responsibilities to the Dominion." "I know," Jake said. He carefully moved Kira's paw away from the controls. She made a frustrated chirp but settled down beside his chair. "But right now, they are also children. They need time to just be kids." Valen's expression softened. "The Empress chose well when she bound them to you. You understand what they need." The alliance between humanity and the Lycarian Dominion grew stronger every day. The Lycarians shared their knowledge of faster-than-light travel. They taught humans about advanced materials and new ways to generate energy. In return, humans offered their expertise in artificial intelligence, genetic medicine, and something the Lycarians found fascinating: adaptability. "You are a young species," the Empress told Jake during one of her visits, "but you can think in flexible ways. You see problems from angles we never consider. This is valuable." Jake learned about Lycarian culture. They lived in packs with strict codes of honor. They believed all living things were connected spiritually. Family meant everything to them, but family was not just blood. It was also the bonds you chose to make. The Lycarians learned about humans too. They listened to music and were amazed by the emotion in it. They looked at paintings and sculptures and could not believe humans made beautiful things just for the sake of beauty. They learned about human ideas of individual freedom, which was less important in their own society. It was not always easy. Sometimes the two species misunderstood each other. Sometimes their different values caused arguments. Sometimes the gap between them seemed too big to cross. But both sides kept trying. Both sides wanted the alliance to work. One evening, 6 months after the ice storm, Jake sat in his quarters. They were bigger now, with enough space for him and for Kira to have her own sleeping area. She was on her cushion, reading a human book on her date. She had grown a lot. She was now the size of a large dog. Her fur had developed the full shine of an adult Lycarian. "Jake," she said. Her voice was still young and high but clear. "Why did you save us, really?" Jake looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean? You did not know who we were. We could have been dangerous. The storm could have killed you. But you came anyway." Her golden eyes were intense. "I want to understand why." Jake thought about his answer carefully. "Because you needed help," he said finally. "And I could help you. It is as simple as that." "But it is not simple," Kira insisted. "My mother has told us about other species. Some would have left us to die. Some would have used us as hostages. Humans are different. You are different." "Why?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "I think it is because we know what it feels like to be vulnerable. Humans spent most of our history being weak. We were prey animals, not predators. We hid in caves and hoped the storms would pass. Maybe that is why we help creatures in need, even alien ones." Kira thought about this. Her ears tilted as she processed his words. So compassion comes from understanding vulnerability. Sometimes it just comes from seeing another being suffer and knowing you can stop that suffering. Kira got up and pressed against his side, a gesture of Lycarian affection. "I am glad you found us, Jake Morrison. I am glad you were there in that storm." "So am I, little one," Jake said. He scratched behind her ears the way she liked. "So am I." Outside his window, Jake could see ships from both species. Humans and Lycarians worked together on the expanded mining operation. They were now prospecting across 3 moons. But more than work was happening. Friendships were forming. He could see Katie and Frost playing some kind of game with young Lycarian engineers. Everyone was laughing in their own way. It had started with a choice in a storm. One simple act of compassion had rippled out and changed the fate of 2 species. And this was just the beginning. Jake had learned a lot about the Lycarians in 6 months. They were warriors, but they valued peace. They were proud, but they respected humility. They had advanced technology, but they honored the natural world. They were different from humans in many ways, but in the most important ways, they were the same. They loved their children. They valued loyalty. They tried to do what was right. The Empress visited often. She spent time with Kira and Frost, teaching them about their heritage and their responsibilities. But she also spent time with Jake, asking his opinion on matters of state, and sharing her own worries about leading her people. "You saved more than my children," she told him once. "You saved me from a grief that would have destroyed me. I will never forget that." Jake had just nodded. He did not know what to say to that. He had not been thinking about empresses or grief when he ran into that storm. He had just heard something crying and could not walk away. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best actions were the ones you did not think about too much. The ones you did just because they were right. Kira was almost asleep now, her breathing slow and steady. Jake pulled a blanket over her and turned off the lights. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more negotiations, more challenges. The alliance was still new and fragile in some ways. There was much work to do, but tonight, Jake felt peaceful. He had a purpose now that went beyond mining for metals. He was helping to build something important, a bridge between worlds, a friendship between species. And it had all started because he had chosen to help 2 small creatures in a storm. Sometimes the biggest changes came from the smallest choices. Sometimes saving 2 lives could change the universe. Jake looked out at the stars one more time before going to bed. Somewhere out there, other species watched and waited. Some were friends, some were enemies, some were still unknown. But humanity was not alone anymore. They had allies now. They had the Lycarian Dominion standing with them. And Jake had 2 young Lycarians who trusted him completely. He thought about that first night, when he had held 2 dying pups and tried to warm them back to life. He had not known their names then. He had not known they were royalty. He had not known about the fleet that would come looking for them. He had just known they needed help, and that had been enough. That had been everything. As Jake drifted off to sleep, he smiled. Life was strange and surprising. You never knew where a simple choice would lead you. But if you chose compassion, if you chose to help when you could, then good things could happen. Even on a frozen moon in the middle of nowhere, good things could happen. The facility had become a place of wonders. Every day brought something new. Lycarian teachers arrived to instruct humans in advanced physics. Human artists came to share their music and paintings with aliens who had never seen such things. Children from both species played together in the recreation areas, inventing games that mixed human and Lycarian rules. Jake walked through the main plaza one morning and saw a Lycarian engineer showing a group of human scientists how to create energy from quantum fluctuations. Nearby, a human chef was teaching Lycarians how to make pizza. The smell of baking bread mixed with the scent of Lycarian incense. The sound of laughter in 2 languages filled the air. Kira and Frost were now 1 year old. In human terms, they looked like they were about 12. They stood almost 4 feet tall. Their fur was thick and glossy. Their voices had deepened, but they still acted like kids sometimes, playing and joking and getting into minor trouble. Kira had developed a love of human literature. She read everything she could find. Books about history, science, adventure, romance. She especially loved stories about heroes who did the right thing even when it was hard. "These stories matter," she told Jake one evening. "They teach us who we want to be." Frost had become fascinated with human music. He learned to play the guitar, though his paws made it challenging. Katie helped him practice for hours. The sounds he made were strange at first, a mix of human melodies and Lycarian harmonics. But gradually it became something beautiful and unique. The alliance was working. Trade ships now moved regularly between human and Lycarian worlds. Human colonies received Lycarian protection from pirates. Lycarian outposts got human medical supplies and food. Knowledge flowed both ways, making both species stronger and smarter. But not everyone was happy about it. Some humans feared the Lycarians were too different, too powerful. Some Lycarians thought humans were too chaotic, too unpredictable. There were protests on both sides, arguments in legislative chambers, Angry articles and news feeds. Jake found himself in the middle of these conflicts. He met with worried human politicians who thought the alliance gave Lycarians too much influence. He spoke with concerned Lycarian nobles who thought humans could not be trusted. Change is hard, Commander Valen told him after a particularly difficult meeting. Both our peoples must adapt. It will take time. We do not have forever, Jake said. If we cannot make this work, the alliance will fall apart. Then we must work harder, Valen said simply. The Empress arrived for an extended visit in the 13th month. She came with her full court, dozens of advisors and nobles. They were there to evaluate the alliance and decide if it should continue. Jake was nervous. Everything he had worked for could end if the Empress decided humans were not worth the effort. She called him to a private meeting in the conference chamber. Only Jake, the Empress, and Kira and Frost were present. Sit, the Empress said, gesturing to a chair. We need to talk honestly. Jake sat. His heart was pounding. The Empress looked at him with those intense golden eyes. There is resistance to the alliance, she said. Many in my court think humans are too young, too volatile. They want me to end the agreement and withdraw our fleet. Jake's stomach dropped. Your Majesty, please, she raised a hand. I am not finished. There is also strong support for the alliance. Many of my people have come to respect humans. They see your creativity, your courage, your capacity for growth. She paused. But respect is not enough. I need to know if this alliance will last. I need to know if humans can truly be trusted as partners. We can, Jake said firmly. Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. We have flaws. But we also keep our promises. We value loyalty. We stand by our friends. The Empress studied him. You believe this? I know this. I have seen it in my crew. They have worked alongside Lycarians for a year now. They have become friends. Real friends. They would protect their Lycarian colleagues just as they would protect each other. Kira spoke up. Jake is right, Mother. I have spent a year with humans. They are good people. They care about doing what is right, even when it is difficult. Frost nodded. They have taught us so much, not just facts and skills, but ways of thinking, ways of seeing the world. We are better for knowing them. The Empress looked at her children. Her expression softened. You have both grown so much. You are wise beyond your years. She turned back to Jake. Very well. The alliance will continue, but it must grow stronger. We need more than just trade and knowledge exchange. We need true partnership. What do you have in mind? Jake asked. A joint project, something that requires both our peoples to work together deeply, something that shows the galaxy we are united. The Empress smiled. I propose we build a station, a space station at the midpoint between our territories. It will be a place of learning, trade, and cooperation, built by both species, governed by both species, benefiting both species. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. That could work. That could really work. It will take years, the Empress warned. It will be expensive and difficult. There will be setbacks and arguments. But it will be worth it, Jake said. Yes, the Empress agreed. It will be worth it. Over the next months, plans were made. Human engineers and Lycarian architects worked together to design the station. It would be massive, capable of housing 10,000 beings from both species. It would have schools, laboratories, markets, and cultural centers. It would be called Unity Station. Jake was appointed as the human co-director of the project. A Lycarian noble named Theron would be his counterpart. Together they would oversee the construction and ensure both species had equal say in all decisions. The work was hard. Human and Lycarian construction methods were very different. Human workers liked to improvise and adapt on the fly. Lycarian workers preferred careful planning and precise execution. These differences caused friction at first. Jake spent countless hours mediating disputes, explaining to human workers why the Lycarians wanted more planning, explaining to Lycarian workers why the humans needed flexibility. Slowly, the two groups learned to appreciate each other's strengths. Kira and Frost helped in their own ways. They moved between the human and Lycarian workers, translating not just words but intentions. They could explain human humor to confused They could explain Lycarian honor codes to baffled humans. You two are natural diplomats, Jake told them one day. Kira grinned. We learned from the best. 2 years after that first ice storm, Jake stood with the Empress and watched as the first section of Unity Station was completed. It floated in space, gleaming and beautiful. Human and Lycarian ships docked at its ports. Workers from both species moved through its corridors. We did it, Jake said quietly. You did it, the Empress corrected. None of this would exist without you. Without that choice you made in a storm. Jake shook his head. I just saved 2 lives. Everything else came from what people chose to do after that. You gave us the chance, the Empress said. You showed us that humans were worth knowing, worth trusting. That is a gift beyond measure. Kira came to stand beside Jake. She was almost fully grown now, nearly as tall as he was, but she still leaned against him the way she had when she was a pup. What do you think comes next? She asked. Jake looked out at Unity Station. Beyond it, stars stretched in all directions, countless worlds, countless possibilities. I think we keep building, he said. We keep learning. We keep growing together. There will be challenges. There will be setbacks. But as long as we face them together, we will be okay. Frost joined them, his guitar strapped to his back. Will you teach me more Earth songs? Katie laughed. Only if you teach me more Lycarian harmonies. Deal, Frost said. That the Empress watched them all with warm eyes. Her children, safe and happy. The Alliance, strong and growing. The future, bright with promise. All because one human had heard a cry in a storm and chosen to help. All because Jake Morrison had believed that doing the right thing mattered, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous, even when no one would have blamed him for walking away. That choice had changed everything, and the changes were still rippling outward, touching lives across the stars. Jake smiled. He had started as a mining foreman on a frozen moon. Now he was helping to build bridges between worlds. Life was full of surprises, but the best surprise was this: that kindness could be powerful, that compassion could change the universe, that saving 2 small lives could lead to something greater than anyone had imagined. The work ahead was enormous, but they would face it together, human and Lycarian, united in purpose and friendship, and that made all the difference. The attack came on a Thursday morning, 2 years and 8 months after Jake found Kira and Frost in the ice storm. The warning alarms screamed through the facility on Arcturus 7. Jake was in the command center reviewing supply reports with Katie when every screen lit up with red alerts. Ships were dropping out of faster than light space right above them. Dozens of them. They were raiders, the same ones who had attacked Kira and Frost's transport ship years ago. They had come back. Get everyone to the emergency shelters, Jake ordered. His voice was calm even though his heart was racing. Now, explosions started hitting the facility. The building shook, lights flickered. People were screaming and running. Jake grabbed the communication console and tried to reach Commander Vallen's fleet. This is Jake Morrison on Arcturus 7. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. Vallen's voice came through immediately. We see them, Jake. We are engaging now. Get to safety. But the raiders were not trying to fight the Lycarian fleet. They were targeting the facility directly. They wanted to land troops. They wanted to get inside. Cutty ran in with Kira and Frost behind her. The 2 young Lycarians were scared but controlled. Their royal training showed even in crisis. The evacuation tunnels are clear, Katie reported. Everyone is heading to the secondary facility. Another explosion rocked the building. This one was close. Too close. A harsh voice suddenly came through on all communication channels. Jake Morrison, we know the royal pups are in that facility. Give them to us and we will let your people live. Jake's blood went cold. He looked at Kira and Frost. They were 2 years old now, almost fully grown. They stood tall and strong, but they were still young, still vulnerable. Do not listen to them, Kira said firmly. Her voice did not shake. They are void raiders. They never keep their word. They will kill everyone no matter what you do. Another explosion. Closer still. The building's structure was failing. Jake made a decision. Katie, take everyone through the mining tunnels to the secondary facility. It is 3 kilometers away, but it has reinforced walls and its own defense systems. What about you? Katie demanded. I am staying here. Someone needs to buy you time to get away. No, Kira said. She stepped in front of Jake. Even though she was scared, her golden eyes were hard as stone. We will not let you sacrifice yourself for us. It is not a sacrifice, Jake said gently. It is a choice. The same choice I made in the ice storm. You need protection, and I can give it to you. Frost moved to stand beside his sister. Then we make the choice together. We stay with you. You cannot, Jake started to say. The wall exploded inward. Debris flew everywhere. 3 raiders in heavy armor came through the hole. They were humanoid but covered in cybernetic enhancements. Their helmets hid their faces. Their weapons were raised and ready. The pups, one raider said. His voice was distorted by his helmet. Finally, the Empress will pay anything to get them back. Jake stepped between the raiders and Kira and Frost. He had no weapon, no armor, just his body blocking their path. You will have to go through me, he said. The lead raider laughed. It was an ugly sound. That can be arranged. The raider's finger moved toward the trigger. Time seemed to slow down. Jake knew he was about to die, but he felt no regret. He had saved Kira and Frost once. He would save them again. That was what mattered. The raider started to fire, but before the weapon could discharge, the wall behind the raiders exploded. A massive Lycarian in combat armor crashed through, then another, then a dozen more. The Empress herself led the charge, her ceremonial robes replaced by battle gear that made her look like a warrior queen from ancient times. The fight lasted seconds. The raiders never had a chance against trained Lycarian shock troops led by their Empress. When the last raider fell, the Empress crossed the room in 3 long strides. She grabbed Jake by the shoulders. "You foolish, brave, wonderful human," she said. Jake could not tell if she was angry or amazed or both. "You were willing to die for my children." Again, it seemed like the right thing to do. Jake managed. His whole body was shaking from adrenaline. The Empress pulled him into an embrace that would have crushed someone weaker. "The debt I owe you can never be repaid. You have proven yourself again and again." Kira and Frost rushed forward. The 4 of them stood together in the destroyed command center. Outside, the sounds of battle were fading. The Lycarian fleet was destroying the remaining raider ships. Hours later, after the wounded were treated and the facility was secured, Jake stood with the Empress, watching the repair work begin. Humans and Lycarians worked side by side, clearing debris and fixing damage. The attack had been bad but not devastating. Everyone had survived. "You know," the Empress said quietly, "when I first heard that a human had saved my children, I was grateful but curious. I wondered what kind of person would risk their life for strangers. Now I understand. Your species has something precious, something my people lost over thousands of years. You still remember how to care for those who have no claim on you." "We are not perfect," Jake said. "Humans can be cruel and selfish and violent. So can any species," the Empress replied. "But you can also be this." He gestured at the scene before them. "Humans and Lycarians working together to rebuild. Today you stood between death and my children with nothing but your belief that it was right. That is not weakness, Jake Morrison. That is the strongest thing I have ever seen." Kira and Frost appeared. They had been helping with the evacuation. They were dirty and tired, but safe. Kira immediately went to Jake's side, pressing against him the way she had done since she was a pup. "We are safe because of you," she said softly. Again, Jake knelt so he was at eye level with both of them. They were almost as tall as he was now. Soon they would be taller. They would be adults with responsibilities and duties. But right now they were still his kids in a way. "You are safe because many people made brave choices today," he said. "Katie got everyone to the shelters. Commander Valen held off the raider fleet. Your mother led the rescue. I just did my part. Your part was standing in front of weapons ready to fire," Frost pointed out. "Well, yes," Jake admitted. "But someone had to do it." The Empress laughed. The sound was like bells in the wind. "See, this is what I mean. He acts like risking his life is just a job that needed doing." 3 months later, Jake stood in front of an assembly that included representatives from 50 human worlds and the entire Lycarian High Council. The facility on Arcturus 7 had been rebuilt and expanded yet again. Unity Station was nearly complete in orbit above them. The alliance between the 2 species was stronger than ever. The Empress stepped forward. She held a collar made of woven metal that shifted colors in the light. "Jake Morrison," she said formally, "for your service to the Lycarian Dominion, for your protection of the royal bloodline, and for the bridge you have built between our peoples, I grant you the rank of Pact. You are now and forever family to the Lycarian people." She placed the collar around Jake's neck. The metal was warm against his skin. It was not just ceremonial. The collar contained technology that would let him communicate with any Lycarian anywhere. It was a level of trust rarely given to outsiders. Kira and Frost stepped forward. They touched their foreheads to Jake's in the traditional Lycarian gesture of family bond. "Our pack brother," Kira said. "Forever." The assembly erupted in applause from both species. Humans clapped. Lycarians made a harmonious humming sound that filled the chamber. Jake looked out at the crowd. He thought about that night in the ice storm. He had just been trying to save 2 small creatures from freezing. He had not thought about consequences. He had not imagined any of this. One simple choice, one act of compassion, and it had changed everything. Katie stood beside him with Frost at her side. "Not bad for a mining foreman," she said with a grin. Jake laughed. "No, not bad at all." Outside the facility, ships from both species moved through space. Human and Lycarian children played together in the schools. Scientists from both worlds worked side by side in laboratories. Artists collaborated on projects that mixed their different cultures into something new and beautiful. All of it had started with a choice made in a storm, when Jake Morrison heard a cry for help and decided he could not walk away, when he chose compassion over safety, when he decided that 2 small lives mattered enough to risk his own. It was proof that even the smallest decisions could carry the greatest weight, that kindness, offered freely without expecting reward, could change the universe. That one person making the right choice at the right moment could alter the course of history. Jake looked at Kira and Frost, at the Empress, at all the beings who had become his family across the stars. He felt grateful. He had come to Arcturus 7 looking for rare metals and a paycheck. Instead, he had found something far more valuable. He had found purpose. He had found family. He had found proof that compassion could build bridges between worlds, that caring for others, even strangers, even aliens, was never wasted, that doing the right thing mattered. The Empress put her hand on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about, Pac?" Jake smiled. "I am thinking that I am glad I went out in that storm. I am glad I heard them crying. I am glad I made the choice to help." "As am I," the Empress said. "As are we all." And that, Jake thought, was the truth of it.